Okay, so let's continue talking about deontology and teleology. And now, let's kind of do a little deeper exploration of these two ways of making moral decisions. So this first example is quite common. It's the quandary of catching the starving man stealing a loaf of bread. So what do you do? Well, deontology, remember, deals with the rules and emphasizing the rules just because they're rules, and that's where the authority lies. So clearly, if you're a deontologist, the man stole a loaf of bread. That's breaking one of the 10 Commandments, breaking the rules. You call the police. Clearly. Now, the other, if you're a teleologist, what do? Well, you imagine being a starving man and being so poor to not even have, a handful of change to buy a loaf of bread. So you think about this and what that must be like, and then you come to the conclusion that you would want someone to, give you a loaf of bread or give you food if you were starving. So what do? You don't call the police. You give the man the loaf of bread. And you might even do something like go ahead and buy him a bag of apples or something else so he has some additional food. That would be an example there. Now this next one may be a little upsetting. It's not meant to. But imagine that you are pregnant. You have an ultrasound that shows your fetus has a severe birth defect that will result in her being born, living a life of pain and suffering, and dying very young. What do? Well, according to deontology, that this is murder. Abortion is the killing of an innocent being. This is murder. So what would a deontologist do is you would carry the fetus to full term and give birth because, having an abortion is murder. But if you're a teleologist, what would you do? Well, you would stop and think, gosh, if this child is born, this child would live a very short life, and that life would be full of pain and suffering. So then you stop to think, well, wait a second, natural law. This should be about ensuring happiness and avoiding things like pain and suffering. So what do? You abort the baby. Because that would have the result of not subjecting another being to a life of pain and suffering that would be very, very short. Third example. Imagine you go to a party and you knock on the front door and the door opens and it is an amazing, crazy scene. Things are really, really out of control. People are drinking. People are smoking something that is not cigarettes. People are in various stages of undressing. So what do? Well, if you're a deontologist, you turn and leave immediately because that type of behavior is on just about every no list. If you're a teleologist, you stop at the doorway and you look in and you kind of think about, well, what's going to happen? Well, chances are if I go into that party, I might feel peer pressured to do some drinking and to use some drugs. There might be some recreational sex involved. So then you stop and think, well, gosh, I really don't want to subject myself to peer pressure, or if I choose to partake of that, I don't want to have a hangover. And then at work, gosh, the boss mentioned that urine analysis might be coming up in next quarter, and I didn't bring any condoms. I don't want to catch, a STD. So if you're a teleologist, just like the deontologist, you turn and leave. How about that? So hopefully these examples here help to deepen understanding as we explored morality, focusing here not so much on natural law, but deontology and teleology. So now, where does authority come from? Now with deontology, again, that's the list. With theisms, the authority for morality is God or gods, if you are a Hindu. And this is what's often referred to as divine command. And all the Abrahamic faiths have these different lists that people revere. It's really interesting. People revere the list of rules and almost worship these rules. In Hinduism, likewise, there's the laws of Manu, which is the deontology, that's the code as well. In Hinduism, there's the caste system. And what the caste system consists of, it provides the stratification for society with all of the different classes. At the top, there's the priests, then the warriors or rulers, then skilled workers or traders, so forth, unskilled, until you get down to the very bottom, which are the outcasts or the untouchables. And contained in the caste system, which is in the laws of Manu, it outlines the different duties and roles that people are allowed to perform. So again, that's for theism. This is divine command. Now, you'll notice that we're still with deontology, but with a sage. Remember, what is a sage? It's a wise person. So with the sage, since there's no God to give laws authority, the laws instead appeal to one's own virtue. So the difference between the sage-based as opposed to theism is there's no divine command. And on the right-hand side, I won't go through and read these aloud to you, but on the right-hand side, these are the 5 precepts of the Buddha, and you might notice that they begin not with should not or shall not statements, but with the word refrain. And a lot of people go, why is that, Mr. K? Well, remember that the Buddha was not a god. When people asked the Buddha, are you one of the gods? The Buddha said, no, I'm an ordinary man just like you. I've reached enlightenment. I want to share it with you so you can lead an enlightened life as well. And one thing that Buddhists do not do, they're not going to stand above you and shake and wag their finger at you and give you a great big long lecture about what you're doing wrong. Instead, it's going to be refrain. These are things that you don't want to do, but at the same time, a Buddhist is not going to stand and shake his head and say, you should not do these, because under Buddhism, one of the core teachings of Buddhism is to accept responsibility for your actions, and that's what the Buddha wants us to do. The figure on the left is on the left is Confucius. And what I really like about Confucius is you go through and you read his statements, and what he wants the listener to do, the audience, is to, be quiet, find calm, and look inside yourself. And then see what's in there to help you make these choices. So we're at the 10-minute mark already. That one went by really fast. So we'll continue taking our look at morality in the next lecture.